What's up guys, it's James Allen, the out-of-state investor, and today we're going to continue with our mini-series and get into part 2 of how to buy a rental property, where I'm going to talk about how to pick your real estate market in just 9 steps. Now I kind of did a video on this topic already called Buying Rental Property Out of State. This is where I focused on researching how to choose a metro area to invest in. The link is in the description below, and I highly recommend watching that video first before watching this one. Now I mentioned this before, but there are 3 different levels of research for choosing a real estate market. And in this video, I'm going to be focusing on level 2 and level 3 research, which is what I use to narrow down my specific target area to buy real estate. Now, if you're really planning on narrowing down your market, then I'm going to need you to smash that like button and go ahead and push the subscribe button below to get notified of new real estate videos just like this one. All right, enough of that now. Let's get into it. Number 1, establish your goals. When deciding on where you're going to invest, you're going to have to make a decision about which kind of neighborhood you want to invest in. Are you looking for appreciation, cash flow, or a little bit of both? Typically, good neighborhoods have better chance of appreciation but have lower cash flow, whereas the lower quality neighborhoods have better cash flow but less chance of appreciation. The way investors break down neighborhoods is by using a letter grading system. It's nothing official or anything that's documented in any sort of way. It's just simply a way of describing an area. An A neighborhood is an area with all the latest and greatest. This would include things like the best restaurants, best schools, most expensive real estate, wealthiest individuals. You get the idea. For a rental property, these kind of areas typically have the best quality tenant, but at the same time, they have the worst return on investment as far as passive income is concerned. And this is mainly because the prices of these properties are just too high to see good cash flow, and in many cases they end up being cash flow negative. A B neighborhood may not be the best of the best, but it will still have good schools, good restaurants, coffee shops, and newer buildings. As a rental property, B-class areas will cater to your middle-class, blue-collar worker type. These are reliable tenants that will, for the most part, not be a headache and bring a decent return on investment as far as cash flow is concerned. A C neighborhood is more of a lower income area with older buildings. In these areas, it's not uncommon to find nearby pawn shops, payday advance shops, or other similar businesses. As a rental property, these tenants will be less than reliable and are seen as riskier than B-class tenants, but it can work out just fine in a lot of cases. It just really depends on who you get. Your return on investment will also be higher than your B-class properties when all goes according to plan. Finally, a D neighborhood is the lowest income area and will many times be what we call a war zone. In these areas, you can count on seeing lots of boarded up windows, graffiti, and it's generally an area you wouldn't feel comfortable driving or walking through, even in the middle of the day. For me, I like to focus on B areas down to C+ areas, and this is for a couple of reasons. 1, they provide solid cash flow. 2, they're not as risky as those D or C- areas might be, which for being an out-of-state investor is really important to me. And 3, I feel like the odds of getting appreciation on my properties are increased since there is a level of desire and demand to live in these areas. Either way, this should help give you an idea of your options when you're establishing your goals and deciding on what level of risk and reward you want in your rental property. Number 2. Crime rates. Crime rates are statistics that you can find online that give you an idea of how low or high the crime is in a certain area. This can be really useful information to help mitigate risk on your rental property. But keep in mind that these stats are not 100% reliable for all your due diligence. I like to start with bestplaces.net to find crime ratings on different cities or zip codes that I'm considering. And then once I've narrowed down my zip codes of interest, I'm going to get more specific with my research and go to realtor.com or neighborhoodscout.com, where I could see crime maps showing me exactly where the more dangerous and more safer areas are, almost block by block. Here's an example for you. Right now I'm on Realtor.com where I'm looking at a property in Atlanta. Now, as you can see, it shows me which neighborhoods are higher or lower in crime. This is really helpful to avoid bad areas in a mostly good zip code. And the last thing I'd recommend doing is calling up your local police department and just ask their opinion on an area that you're considering. They may or may not answer your question depending on the person, but it is worth trying so that you can gain as much information as possible. Number 3, schools. Schools are always one of the biggest driving forces behind rising real estate prices, so it's safe to say that if you're looking for an area that has an opportunity for appreciation, good schools would be one of those things to consider. Now, I like to use greatschools.org for this because they have ratings for the majority of schools in the nation. You can just type in a city or zip code and get an idea of schools in the area. And you can even type in the property address you're looking at to see which schools have been specifically assigned to that property. I like to see that there's schools in the general area that have a rating of at least 5 out of 10, but it doesn't have to be for that house specifically because, as I mentioned before, schools drive up real estate prices. So if you're looking at areas with 10 out of 10 schools, there's probably a good chance you're looking at the most expensive real estate that won't cash flow. Number 4, gentrification. One of the best ways to capture appreciation on rental properties is targeting areas where there is gentrification taking place, or what we also call a path of progress. This is basically an area where homes are getting renovated, maybe new construction being built, basically an up and coming area. To get an idea of where this is taking place, I recommend talking with local real estate brokers or investors, but one of the best ways to get an idea is by driving all the streets in your target neighborhood. When driving the streets, you're going to start to see if there are areas seeing gentrification and also which areas have rehabs in process at that moment. Number 5, number of renters and vacancy rates. The number of renters and vacancy rates are good ways of getting an idea if an area is going to make for a successful rental property. Citydata.com is my go-to website to see what percentage of a zip code are renters. I want a decent sized pool of more than 30% of the population in a particular zip code, so that if I go vacant, I know there's a good amount of people looking for a place to rent in that area. The lower the percentage, the harder it might be to rent out whenever it goes vacant. To get an idea of rental vacancy rates, there are some stats that you can find online, but for the most part, they aren't going to be completely reliable information. The best way to get an idea of rental vacancy rates in an area is to talk with your property manager. Any good property manager should know this number off the top of their heads, and they'll be able to guide you if a house you're targeting is in a worse area compared to others as far as vacancy is concerned. The national average vacancy rate is about 6.8% at the moment, so you can use that as a measuring stick to gauge if you feel like an area has a high or a low vacancy rate. Number 6, median income. Median income is a great way to get an idea of tenant quality, and it can also be found on citydata.com. If the median household income in an area is about $20,000 a year, then you know you're most likely going to be dealing with low quality tenants. With that said, there is no specific amount of income that I recommend targeting since every state has different levels of income. But as you research a lot of zip codes in your area, you'll start to get a feel for what would be a low quality income level. Now, I don't want to paint this topic with broad brushstrokes because I know that even in a low income area, you can have good tenants as well. I would just say, going off the odds, the higher the median income level, the more likely you'll have better tenant quality. What's also cool is that on citydata.com, you can actually break it down on a map to be more specific than just a zip code, like I'm doing right now. You can see that I can go area by area, and it will adjust on the meter below to tell me what the median household income for that small area is. This is really helpful when you're looking to start making offers on properties and can help you dramatically mitigate risk. Number 7, nearby restaurants and retail. It's great if you can buy a property that's near great restaurants, coffee shops, or shopping malls, things of that nature. But this may not fall in line with your goals and the type of properties that you're going for, and that's okay. I don't put the same amount of importance on these things as I do compared to most of the other tips that I give. But it's nevertheless a nice bonus if you can find a property nearby these kind of areas that still cash flow and bring in a good return. Number 8, population growth. When narrowing down on your investment area, I want to understand not only how the metro population growth looks, but also get more specific and understand how the county or city population growth looks as well. Population growth is one of the biggest drivers in real estate and rent prices, so definitely get familiar with this information if you want to increase your chances of appreciation. Now, the website that I like to use for this information is www.census.gov. This will give you the most up-to-date information on population and will help you as you continue to narrow down your target area. Number 9, property taxes. The last thing I want to look at when I'm narrowing down a market is property taxes. Every county has a different percentage they take for property taxes, and if one takes a big percentage, it can really eat into your cash flow. For example, I'm looking at a property here in Dallas, Texas, where the county tax rate is on average 2.18% of the assessed property value. This property is $365,000, and the property taxes on this property would come out to about $693 a month. Now let's take a look at another property, but this time we'll go to Madison, Alabama, where the county tax rate is on average 0.43% of the assessed property value. The property I'm looking at in this area also has a price tag of $365,000. However, the monthly property taxes are only $140 a month. So you can see that the Madison, Alabama property saved you $553 a month or $6,636 a year for the same purchase price. That can seriously be the difference of cash flowing or being cash flow negative. So when you're looking into narrowing down your area, check out what the average property tax percentage rate is. Last thing you'll want to double check is that there may also be city property taxes as well, depending on the city that you're targeting. So check with your real estate agent on that one to make sure you understand exactly how much you'll have to pay for your property taxes when owning a rental property in that area. So with all that said, I know that was a lot of information to take in, but guys, these 9 steps really will help you to narrow down your market of choice to not only pick a great one, but also help you mitigate risk along the way. Most of these things can be researched in any order, but make sure whatever you do, start with number 1, which was establishing your goals, because this is what's going to help you to decide exactly which area works best for you. Also, your property does not have to check every box that we discussed today to be a great deal. These are just different things to consider whenever you're narrowing down on your market. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Keep an eye out for the next videos in this series on how to buy a rental property. I'm posting a new video every Friday. Now, if you enjoyed watching this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up if you haven't already done so. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, then I think it's about time you do it. Just hit that subscribe button below and get the latest updates on this channel. And if you have any thoughts about the video, please comment down below. Give me your feedback. I love seeing everyone's thoughts and opinions. Lastly, if you want to stay up to date with me, check out my Instagram page @TheOutOfStateInvestor. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.